Welcome back to the Bears Talk Ireland podcast. When it comes to Chicago Bears off seasons, one thing you can be guaranteed that there'll be conversation about the offensive line. I think year in, year out, we come into the off season and there's so many question marks over the line, and we wonder if they finally done it in a certain year, and then we find out that ultimately they haven't. Well, I think this year now we may be that little bit more positive. Obviously, we know there's going to be a lot of change on this line over this off season. That was pretty obvious. I think when it comes to the starting five, Darnell Wright at right tackle, I think you can be put in as a cert to start. I think there were question marks right across the line from there. Braxton Jones at left tackle, I think probably will start the season, but still, that's no guarantee. And, we have free agency and the draft still to come. So, potentially he will start, but maybe who knows? Who knows where the Bears may go with that? But I think the big question marks were always the interior of that line, the centre spot and both guard positions, especially with Tevin Jenkins, who was a player who I really liked. I think a lot of Bears fans really liked, who unfortunately injury wise, it just stopped him in his tracks. He was never able to get a rhythm going. And unfortunately, when you can't finish a game or you're not available for a game, no matter how good potential you may be, things just have to come to an end. So it's unfortunate. I wish Tevin the best. I hope he goes elsewhere and plays well. But unfortunately, it's not going to be in Chicago. So what Ryan Poles has done, he hasn't even waited till free agency, which kicks off on Monday. He's gone out and forced the issue, and he's made two big trades. The first one with the LA Rams for left guard Jonah Jackson, who he's paid a sixth-round draft pick for this year. And the second is Pro Bowler Joe Thuney from the Kansas City Chiefs, who he's given a fourth round 2026 draft pickup for, which I think is a phenomenal piece of business. I know he's a little older, but he still has 3-4 years in him, and that's a player who can make a big difference. So when we look at these moves together, these two moves, I mean, I really like them. I think they're very positive for the Bears when you think of what we've had there and what is coming in here now. First move, Jonah Jackson. He's a player who had a really good reputation when he was in Detroit, working with Ben Johnson at the Lions. A really good player, a sought-after guard last season when the season ended and the Lions weren't able to keep him. The Rams win that bidding war. They give him a 3-year, $51 million contract. And, the future looks bright for Jonah Jackson in LA. But unfortunately, as I mentioned with Tevin, sometimes injuries can play a part. Jackson has had a number of injuries over his career, and hopefully that's not something that's going to affect this Bears move going forward. Hopefully he'll be able to stay injury-free. But unfortunately for him in LA, he got an injury. He went out. The rookie comes in at centre, does really well, kind of outperforms what everyone expects. Steve Avila, who they wanted to play left guard, is playing well at left guard. And Jackson finds himself the odd man out. And it's kind of surprising given the money they've paid, but Sean McVay clearly is a head coach who doesn't mess about. If something's working and something else doesn't make sense anymore, they move on quickly, and that's what they've done. And look, their misfortune in terms of the injury and paying a lot of money to a player could end up being the Bears' fortune, because we now have Jackson coming in here. He's a really good player. As I say, he did really well in Detroit. He showed himself to be a strong, agile left guard who could really make a difference. And then obviously our head coach, Ben Johnson, has worked with him before in Detroit. So this, for me, shows that Ben Johnson is putting his stamp on this team and on this offense, bringing in a player that he knows, that he clearly trusts, and that he feels will help bolster this line and give Caleb Williams the protection that he clearly deserves for this young quarterback we're hoping to develop. Also off the field, reading a lot of stories, about his time last year in LA. Some players may have handled it badly, may not have taken well to it, but by all accounts, he stayed a really good teammate. He was there when he needed to be there. He did his job. He did what you'd expect him to do. And it's just one of those situations where it just didn't fall right for everybody involved. And the move was made. And I think for the Bears, this is a really positive move. This is a player who can come in and make a difference. I mean, they're paying him a lot of money, a little over 17 million. So, he is a player who I think they are expecting to come in and make a difference. Then we talk about that second move, which for me is obviously the big move, and that's Joe Thuney from the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a player who has a wealth of experience, not just winning games, not just winning, divisions. This is a player who in 9 seasons has been to 6 Super Bowls and won 4 of them. This is a multiple Pro Bowl player who can come in, who is one of the best left guards in the NFL. He's a player at 32. He still has 2-3 years left in him. I think he's a player who will come in and make a big difference. I mean, as I say, both players have been primarily played left guard. They obviously can play in different positions. Jonah Jackson has played centre. He's played right guard, but the majority of his time has been at left guard. And then Joe Thuney, as we saw last season, was brought in basically as an emergency left tackle. He had to slide across. Good left tackle. He's obviously not a top class left tackle as good as he is at guard, but still he's a player who can move across if need be. But again, you're hoping that's not the case. You're bringing in a top level left guard, and you want him to play left guard. And I do think he will play left guard. I think you're going to look at Jonah Jackson probably going to the right guard. I know there's talk, he's played centre and maybe the Bears can put him there, but I'm hoping that's not the case. For me, this Bears interior needed a lot of work. They're doing that now. And if they're going to do it, they may as well do it right. And I feel if you're going to bring in a centre or somebody to play centre, they need to be a centre. They need to know the ins and out of that position, to work with that young quarterback, to call protections, to know what's in front of them. That this needs to be second nature to them. So for me, your centre needs to be an actual centre and not a converted guard or anybody who's been slid across. So I'm hoping that's the way it's going to go. And I do think that's the way it's going to go. I think you'll find Jackson at right guard. I think you'll find Thuney at left guard. And then the question then will be, will they want to go out and get a centre in free agency, or have they put enough money into the line that maybe they'll feel like they'll want to draft a centre? Maybe they have one in-house. We'll find out. I mean, that's a long way off yet, but I mean, it's something that'll be interesting to watch. But when we look at Joe Thuney at left guard, one big beneficiary for me is Braxton Jones if he starts at left tackle. We know Braxton is a big guy. He has a lot of potential there, but he has some issues. He's still young. He's still making certain mistakes, and I think if you can get somebody with the experience of Joe Thuney beside him there, somebody to work with him and to help him and maybe work with him to develop going forward. Who knows? Maybe Braxton Jones could once again be that left tackle that's solidified for the Bears. And if that's the case, then you could be looking at 2 young tackles, 2 older guards, but guys who are really good and really positive and really bolster this line up. And then we'll see what happens at centre. So for me, I like these moves. Again, I know there's some people asking, well, look, why are the Chiefs getting rid of Joe Thuney? Is there an issue here we don't know about? We know what's happening there. The Chiefs, they have some salary cap issues. Creed Humphreys has just been given a really big contract. Trey Smith, who they've just franchised, or we think they're going to franchise, will be getting a very big contract. At some point, I know you can kick the can down the road with the salary cap, but it does come back to bite at some point. And I think they've looked at it and they've thought, right, we have the younger guards, we can pay him. And unfortunately, the older guard is just going to be one of those kind of salary cap issues. They'll try and get what they can for him. They've obviously got the 4th round draft pick for next year from the Bears. So they'll move on and rebuild that line the way they need to. And for us now, the Bears have 2 new guards, 2 experienced, 2 guards who have been to the Pro Bowl, and I think 2 guards who will make a big difference. And this is exactly what the Bears need. We know they gave up 68 sacks last season. Excuse me, worst in the NFL, 3rd worst in the history of the NFL. We have a young quarterback. Everything is built around him. I talked about Braxton Jones being a big beneficiary of Joe Thuney being right beside him there. Well, I think Caleb Williams, we all want him to be the big beneficiary of these offensive line changes. This is a quarterback who Bears' hopes are rested on. I mean, this franchise is now being built on his shoulders. Ben Johnson, Ryan Poles, they are going out there and they are making moves to give this young quarterback the absolute best chance to win, as they have to, because this is where the Bears' future is. This young quarterback who we believe can go on to be a great quarterback, a Hall of Fame quarterback, hopefully someday. So again, I think these moves are positive. I think this is what needed to happen. I think it's an offensive line that is going to look so much better next season. I think for once we can go into an off season, or we can go through an off season and legitimately be you know, happy with the moves that have made there. Be positive about what may happen with this line. There are no guarantees. Both guys have been to the Pro Bowl. But as I've mentioned, we seen what happened to Jackson last year. Injuries happen, things can go wrong. Nothing is guaranteed bringing in these players. But I think the Bears are giving themselves a better chance bringing in these experienced players who can come in and really make a difference. And look, I still think, I know this is a 5-win Bears team. It's hard to get too high on it. And I've said I'm not going to get overly excited this offseason. No matter what happens, I'm going to try and stay grounded. Easy to say now. We'll see in a couple of months as things have changed and things have developed, and we'll see where it goes from there. But I still think this is a good Bears team. They definitely have some holes they need to fix. There are definitely some issues there that need to be tweaked or fixed. But all in all, I think they have a young, exciting quarterback. They have weapons. I think they need another running back. I think that's probably something that will happen in the draft. Maybe not Genty in the first round, but who knows with these changes? Maybe they've just opened themselves up now to give themselves a bit more leeway there. I still don't think they will, but maybe they've opened up that option for themselves. But I do think they can get an impact running back in the second or third round. I think they can bring one in. I think we know what they have at wide receiver. We know Cole Kmet had an off year, but he's a player who can really come in and make a difference when he's used correctly. I think Ben Johnson will use him correctly. I know we say, look at Sam Laporta and what he did at the Lions with Ben Johnson there, but it's hard not to get excited about this play caller coming in, given what we've seen in Detroit. So we've seen there, if they can get his offensive line right, if they can give Caleb Williams more of a chance to do what he needs to do and not be running for his life, I think this is a Bears team that can be better than the 5 wins last year, obviously. But I think they can be a very good team. Now, again, it's a tough division. We saw what each of the teams done last year. They all won a lot of games. Didn't really go for them in the playoffs, but in regular season, this is probably the toughest division in the NFL. So while trying not to get too far ahead of myself, I still think it's positive moves for the Bears. I still think they are going in the right direction. So for me, all good. Hopefully we'll find out in a few months if it actually works out or not. But for now, on paper, it looks good. And we'll see what it's like going forward from there. But again, I really appreciate you tuning in, listening and watching. Please do like and subscribe. Obviously, it's a new channel and, it makes a big difference for people to come in and like and subscribe to the channel. That will hopefully help it grow. And until next time, take care.